Welcome to Rice 101, module number 15. My names are Griffiths Atungulu. I'm the director of the Hawkins Rice Processing Program. I'm an associate professor and agricultural engineer. My area of expertise is in grain processing and post-harvest systems engineering. I'm housed in the Department of Food Science with the University of Hawkins System Division of Agriculture. In this module number 15, we are going to look at rice safety issues, and predominantly these are safety issues as far as the consumer is concerned. We are going to look at issues that stem from insect infestation, microbial infestation, chemical or nutrient deficiency, and adulteration. First, let's consider rice safety issues that arise from insects. Insects are a major threat to many crops, including rice, and insect growth is supported by hot and humid conditions. Rice plant and kernel often offer nutrition that supports this insect's growth. And the insect infestation can occur both on the field and in the storage. Now, insect infestation causes a large economic loss to our growers. Rice insect infestation can occur in the field as well as in storage. And first, let me mention some of those insects that you would expect to infect rice in the field. We have root feeders, we have stem borers, we have sugarcane borer, we have what we call the armyworm and rice stinkbug. As far as rice that can affect, insects that can affect rice in store, there are two categories. We have what we call the internal feeders and the external feeders. Now, the internal feeders are those insects that develop inside the rice kernel, and then they feed on the endosperm. Some of the examples of those include the rice weevil, the lesser grain borer, and the rice grain moth. From an external feeder standpoint, these are insects that develop outside the rice kernel and feed on the bran or broken kernels or dust particles that could be found around the grain. Examples of this include the red flower beetle, sawtooth grain beetle, the hairy fungus beetle. There are various safety measures that we can take into account in order to mitigate some of the problems that arise from insect infestation. And these include things like good cultural practices. These practices should be practices that can help reduce or disrupt the habitat around the commodity. And they could also include things like adjusting the crop planting. And whenever that is done, it helps disrupt the habitat and also the nutritional requirement of the insects. Now, cleanliness and sanitation are very, very important because once again, when that is done, it disrupts the habitat where the insect would otherwise have proliferated. The use of chemicals is also very important, as well as insecticides. Then there's the biological control method and the use of insect-resistant rice cultivars. Next, let's talk about rice safety issues that result from microorganisms. Again, rice is exposed to various microorganisms on the farm on the farm or during storage. Predominantly, bacteria and fungi are the groups that are of major concern, and there's a lot of attention, however, that has been placed on fungi because fungi are known to produce some toxic substances that are very, very carcinogenic to consumers. Those toxic substances are called mycotoxins. They have been associated with some effects on consumers. For example, they can cause stunting of growth, they can cause suppression of immunity, they can even lead to cancer and death whenever the grain that is contaminated is consumed. They are very difficult to remove from rice once they are present because they tend to have very high tolerance to temperature before they can degrade. Now, there are various ways that this mycotoxin can find themselves in humans or affect humans. The first thing is we have the fungi that could be in the field or could be in store. Now, that fungi, as it is, whenever it is aerosolized, it can be breathed in by the human, and whenever that happens, of course, it finds a pathway to contaminate the consumer. The other way is that fungi could be on the commodity, could be on the rough rice, and inadequate processing can lead that to find its way into the pet food chain. And whenever there is in the pet food chain, of course, we can easily get in contact with pet food, and that can find itself in affecting humans. Now, part of that rough rice could also be used as an animal feed, and if it's contaminated, then we can see some of that toxin finding itself in the milk or egg products, or basically the byproducts from the animals. And whenever those are consumed, eventually it affects the human. Or it can easily also fall directly on the human. Now, there are some mycotoxins that have been found on rice. We are all familiar with aflatoxin. This is one of those predominant one. We have B1, B2, G1, and G2. Basically, those represent some of the fluorescence or the color of the fluorescence that is observed whenever these toxins are observed under a UV light. Aflatoxin in general are produced by a fungi called Aspergillus. And there are various other mycotoxins that are also produced by different fungi. We have the citrinine that is also produced by Aspergillus, as well as the Penicillium species. We have the deoxynivalenol that is also produced by Fusarium. And then we have others, including zearalenone, that is produced by Fusarium. And so there are various mycotoxins that are produced by various microorganisms. Now, there are various safety measures that we can take into account whenever we want to get rid of mycotoxins. These include things like frequent testing of our commodity before eating it. Rapid drying before storage is important because that helps remove the moisture that otherwise this microorganism could use to proliferate in the product. Storing our product in a dry and cool environment is very important. It's important to prevent insect infestation because some of these insects not only dig into our commodity, giving easy access for the fungi, but they could also act as carriers of these toxins, producing fungi within our systems. Now, there's also the use of fungicides that is very important in terms of controlling some of these toxins. Let's talk about some of the rice safety issues of chemical origin. Now, compared to other crops, rice accumulates a lot of heavy metals, and that's predominantly because of the way it is produced. Rice, unlike other commodities, is produced under flooded irrigation, and whenever that is done, there's potential of some of the minerals or heavy metals dissolving in the soil and becoming easily accessible for the plant to take into their systems. Now, rice absorbs metals that accumulate eventually in the grain. Bran and the germ retain metals very easily. Brown rice may have higher metals levels than the white rice. Now, we are familiar with some of these metallic compounds that have been associated with rice. For example, we have arsenic, we have lead, we have cadmium. These are known to pollute the environment and can easily pass into the rice. There are various dangers that have been associated with some of these metallic compounds whenever they find themselves in rice. For example, from studies, it's been found that some of these metallic compounds can produce things like skin cancer, lung cancer, kidney cancer, prostate cancer, and other health complications. Now, some of the safety measures to kind of contain the effects that result from this heavy metal absorption by the plant would definitely include things like good water management practices. There are techniques out there that are trying to look at methods like alternate wetting and drying in order to reduce the amount of water, and in so doing also probably reduce the levels of chemical that can be taken in by the plant. There's soil management practices, nutrient management practices, good tillage management practices, as well as phytoremediation techniques, which basically involve the use of green plants that remove, degrade, or stabilize the undesirable substances such as these toxic metals. There's also the other approach which uses microbial remediation techniques. Now, let's look at some of the rice safety issues that result from nutrients deficiency and adulteration. Human deficiency in micronutrients is rampant, particularly in countries that use rice as a staple food. This may not be a major problem in the United States, but from World Health Organization statistics, there are some countries that use rice as a staple food, and if they don't supplement it with other nutrition, there are cases where they may be deficient in things like zinc, iron, manganese, and this could cause major health concerns. For instance, iron deficiency has been associated with anemia. Manganese deficiency has been associated with things like asthma and birth defect. Zinc deficiency has been associated with growth retardation, immune suppression, as well as cognitive impairment. Rice fortification is therefore a very, very important technique to help increase these micronutrients in the rice. Through fortification, it's possible to add things like vitamin B, iron, folic acid, vitamin A, manganese, zinc, niacin, as well as vitamin B6. Another technique that is also popularly used to help improve the nutrient value of rice is parboiling. And in this process, essentially, rough rice is soaked. And whenever rough rice is soaked in hot water, that makes the nutrients that are in the bran become soluble and therefore easy to move from the water into the endosperm. In the process of doing that, pressure and steam is utilized to push some of those nutrients from the bran into the endosperm part of the rice. That allows the final product to be very nutrient dense whenever it is milled. And so technically the final product, which is parboiled, tends to contain 80% of the nutrient compared to that which is not parboiled. There's the problem of adulteration. Basically, this is the deliberate mixing of low rice quality with high quality rice for profit purposes. And this can also result in nutrient deficiency because though low quality rice will not offer the nutrition requirement that the consumer is looking at. Now, this can occur at different stages. There are various methods that the industry is looking at that can help to segregate those low quality rice from the high quality rice. And when I talk about low quality rice, it could also involve maybe some synthetic rice or extruded rice mixed with the natural rice. Now, the various techniques that are out there that are employed by the industry include things like assessing the morphological or the physiological characteristics of samples to identify whether they are conforming to what is expected for high quality rice. There are also protein-based techniques, there are metabolite-based techniques, and DNA-based techniques that can help to segregate low quality rice from the high quality rice. Now, there are various references that I want to leave here so that you can look at and get a little bit more information about some of the things that we have talked in this module. And with that, I want to say thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to talking to you in the next modules.